Okay, so now we'll call to order the joint meeting of the Glendale City Council and Glendale Housing Authority at 3:27 PM. And may we have roll call for council?
Yes. Council members Asatryan.
Here.
Divine.
Here.
Kasakian.
Here.
Najarian. Mayor Brotman.
Here. And I guess I do both. Can we have roll call for the Housing Authority, please?
Housing Authority members Ajinian.
Here.
Asatryan.
Here.
Divine.
Here.
Kasakian.
Here.
Najarian. Parazian. Chair Brotman.
Here. Okay, may we have your report on this, please?
The agenda for the Tuesday, April 18th, 2023 joint public meeting of the City Council and Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, April 13th, 2023 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. And could you read the first item into the record, please?
Yes. Item 1, Community Development regarding authorization of California Housing Finance Agency form standstill agreements containing rental restriction load up provisions for 515 Pioneer Drive. A, City Council motion authorizing the approval of a California Housing Finance Agency form standstill agreement, city density bonus agreement with rental restriction float up provisions for 515 Pioneer Drive. B, Housing Authority motion authorizing the approval of a California Housing Finance Agency form standstill agreement, home agreement with rental restriction float up provisions for 515 Pioneer Drive. And C, Housing Authority motion authorizing the approval of a California Housing Finance Agency form standstill agreement, agreement containing covenants with rental restriction float up provisions for 515 Pioneer Drive.
Thank you. And Mr. Galanian?
Housing Chair Brotman, members of the Housing Authority, Mayor Brotman, members of the council. Since Mr. Fortney has the hot seat, we'll let him present this item as well. And Yvette Newkin from City Attorney's Office also available for questions.
Okay, so you bailed out. Okay, so I believe it's Mayor Brotman and the council members, and good afternoon, Chair Brotman and Housing Authority board members. So Mike Fortney again, in case you forgot. So this item, this is regarding 515 Pioneer Drive. We just celebrated the groundbreaking, if you recall, about a month ago in the rain. 340 units is the second largest project in the state of California. Believe it or not, there was a project approved at 341 units. I can't believe that. So anyway, the project's in place. We approved the AHA November 15th of last year. A couple of days after that, HFA approached staff with some standstill agreements that they wanted executed. It would have been much preferred had they done that before we brought it to the AHA, but that was their timing. These standstill agreements, these are standard operating procedure for Cal HFA. They're not something we've entered into before. There was a lot of provisions that were in these standstill agreements. And the staff negotiated all of those, and there was one that we felt that the City Council and the Housing Authority should make the decision on, and that's this float up, this concept of float up provision. And even on that one, we at a staff level pushed back, and we said there's 25 units that are extremely low that you cannot touch. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's 14 units that are extremely low, and there's 11 home units. Those rents cannot be touched. Otherwise, in the very unlikely event that the project foreclosed, Cal HFA would be owner of the property. They want the flexibility to be able to float up some of the rents from 30 or 40% upwards to 60%, in order to keep the project financially feasible. And that would be until they sell the property, which they have up to 5 years to do. So like I said, the foreclosure would be extremely unlikely. Between the Housing Authority, Link Housing, and National Core, our two partners, we've developed 200 affordable housing projects. Never once was any of them subject to foreclosure. So this is a conversation that we would have in the disaster, the aftermath of a disaster of a foreclosure. You know, we'll do everything in our power to prevent a foreclosure, but if that were ever to happen, this is the kind of conversation that we would have. Cal HFA, as a standard operating procedure, they just like to have this provision ahead of time. They are the perm lender for the project, as well as a soft lender for the project. I believe their soft dollars are over $10 million. And the perm loan is huge. So we couldn't have done this project without Cal HFA. So we are bringing this item to you for your consideration. We're recommending you allow the float up, and that's it. Unless, I mean, there's questions, of course, I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay, Councilmember Devine.
I just have a couple of, and I think you've already answered my questions. The first question was, why are they all of a sudden getting involved in a project when we have, this is an anomaly for us, actually, isn't it? It's the first time.
It's the first time we've been asked to do these float-ups or the standstill agreements at all. But the first part of the question, Cal HFA has been with the project all along, ever since financing, I should say.
With this project?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they're part of the financing package. Mhm.
Okay, all right. And you mentioned that they could sell the property eventually, if a disaster happens.
Right. So if they had to foreclose on the property, they'd become owner. They're a governmental entity. They don't own affordable housing projects. That's not what they do. So they want to sell it to a bank
Okay.
as quickly as possible. They just have up to 5 years to do it.
And then it would become market rate.
No.
It would still remain,
Yes. No, we do not know. Sorry.
Oh.
No, it would not. The worst case scenario would be units could float up to 60%.
even if they sell.
Yes,
That's what I'm asking.
yes.
Thank you.
No, it will not go to market rate.
All right.
Our affordability restrictions are always in first place.
Act. Okay. That's it.
Any questions? Councilmember Kasakian.
I just want us to be clear, our affordability restrictions are there for a specific period of time, though,
78 years.
not in perpetuity, just so folks know. I know seems like a long time, we won't be here, but
Somebody will.
somebody will.
The folks that follow you 70 years from now, they could make it in perpetuity if they want.
Yeah.
In 78 years, it's on you to decide,
Understandable.
the council.
Thank you.
I know we've been having all kinds of weather issues and catastrophic. Is earthquake part of it?
Pardon me?
Would earthquake be part of it?
The weather?
Yeah.
No, the weather actually caused us a delay on our Pioneer project, but it's in construction now, it's going. But we did have to wait, 3 weeks. We did nothing out at the site because we couldn't haul the soil off. But we're hauling it out now. So the weather affected the project in that way, but not on the financing.
So it's 70, what'd you say, 78? Did you just say 78 years?
I
the
believe this was
affordability?
78 years. Mhm.
Okay, so now, normally, if it doesn't, if it goes to term, there's no default, who owns it at the end of 78 years?
The city does.
We do. But if there's a default, it would go to Cal HFA, they would sell it, and then it would be somebody else. So at the end of 78 years, it would just be owned outright by whoever the purchaser was. There would be no affordability, or no? Or would it come back to us?
No, it was,
If they foreclose or foreclosing on the leasehold that the developer currently has, so if they just step into their shoes, they hold it for a little while, then they would sell it to a new developer or new property owner, and then at the end of the 78 years, the city would still own it. This is just, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yes.
that's typically how our deals are structured.
Okay, so this float up to 60%, if that's what was required to make it financially viable, that would run till the end of the 78 years, and then,
no, that will only be in place as long as Cal HFA owns it. And Cal HFA won't own it more than 5 years.
But then you said when they sell it, the purchaser of the project could retain that float up.
No.
Oh, they
Not
have to
unless we
bring,
give them, not unless we give them that provision.
oh, they would have to bring it back to whatever the affordability levels are in the project now.
That's right.
So basically, Cal HFA would have to probably take a haircut, sell it to somebody who's going to be able to run it and earn a profit with these affordability levels, right?
Part of the reason why they want this ability, this float up ability, I would think, is to try to minimize that.
Try to minimize that. Okay, I see, okay. And then the other question is, what if we say no to this? What happens? Because the deal's already closed.
Right, exactly. From my perspective, I don't know that there's really anything Cal HFA can do. I would ask maybe Mike or Yvette as a legal question, but I don't think that if you don't approve this, They did not make it clear what their direction would be.
Housing Authority Chairman, Mr. Mayor, obviously we couldn't pre-commit the council's discretion when we were discussing these terms with Cal FHA. We just made the promise that we would recommend it to you, knowing that, because it was the interest of all parties to close by the end of the year. They agreed to sort of wait. Otherwise, they had the authority to not close, to not fund the transaction. So we recommended that we make the recommendation. So you do have to consider it in good faith, but I don't think legally you're required to approve.
I see, but this was brought up before we closed. They agreed to just proceed with the close on the hope that we would be reasonable
And we would recommend that we would recommend it.
Okay, and I guess it's a matter of kind of good faith and dealing with them down the road and all that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
if
Okay.
the only thing I could add to that maybe was their standard standstill agreements, we pushed back on them quite a bit. They enter into these with pretty much every jurisdiction that they do a development project. We feel pretty good about it, and we felt good about the recommendation today because of all the pushback that we got on the other provisions that they were asking for.
Okay, all right. I don't have any other questions. No other questions? Is there anybody who would like to move?
Move the item.
Well, let's see, we have council,
Yeah, I guess
what do we have? We have a motion for council 1A.
that's correct.
Would you like to move that for council? Anybody second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Kasakian. Roll call, please.
Council members Asadrian,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian, Mayor Brotman.
Yes.
I'll move for housing.
For housing, that would be 1B and 1C. All right? Yeah. And second?
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Housing Authority members Ajinian,
Yes.
Asatrian,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Kasakian,
Yes.
Najarian, Parazian, Chair Brotman.
Yes. And what is next?
Adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Okay.
Thank you.
there a second?
Second for council,
Council.
Oh, for council, okay. And for housing authority?
and I'll move to adjourn for housing authority.
Second.
Seconded.
Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.